2, 1, let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Gamedev Meetup 93. This time we'll have a presentation from Maroš Brojo. He's the General Manager of Slovak Game Developers Association, and he'll tell us about the Slovak game dev scene. So please, Maroš.
So hello guys, I'm very happy to be here. Hopefully the presentation will be working. So let's try the screen sharing. Oh, you have to enable the screen sharing first, I guess.
Okay. As always.
And then we can go.
Yeah, well, just a sec. Share. It should be enabled. Oh, all participants. Yeah, cool. Share someone else. Okay, should be enabled.
Right.
Awesome.
So hopefully it's working. And let's do this. So can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Just one last time. Test.
Yep, we can see the screen.
Okay. All right, great. So let's do this. So once again, thank you very much for participating at this meetup. We do a very, very similar thing, and I'm very happy in Slovakia, and I'm very happy to know that there are also other associations in other countries organizing regular game developer meetups like this. Unfortunately, the conditions right now are as they are, and we can't see each other in person and maybe have some beers or have some coffee, which would be really awesome. But anyway, I will try to do my best to present to you how the Slovak game development scene looks like, and maybe also talk a little bit about some activities of our association. And like you mentioned previously, hopefully there will be some time for Q&A where I will be able to answer all your questions. So let's go. Slovak Game Developers Association is a civic association, an NGO that was established in 2015. It was founded by 4 experienced members, which were originally and up until now still are regular video game developers. So it was founded by developers for the developers. And currently we have 26 members comprising of 26 Slovak companies. Mostly we are funded via membership fees, but there's also some public funding involved and some projects that we are participating on. Some of our activities you can see over here. This would probably take a lot of time, and we could talk about a lot of this stuff in a separate presentation. But just to sum things up very quickly, and maybe if you want, you can then afterwards ask questions if some of these things are of interest to you. So what we do is communicate with a lot of institutions, especially state institutions and policymakers when we try to negotiate better conditions for Slovak game developers, but also some private and international institutions that we're talking to. We also do a lot of promotion by means of, for example, publishing a catalog every year, or sharing all the new info and all the new published games via our social media and so on and so on. A lot of business development and consulting. We try to connect basically everyone to everyone to simplify things, and consulting. So what we do is we either consult, like we as an association with other game developers if they need some advice or some help, but also we try to find other developers that could actually help the other devs too. So if you have a very specific issue, for example, like, I don't know, my grass is yellow and it should be green, and I don't know what to do because I never done this stuff in Unity, then we will find some Unity expert for you and you can talk to him to help you. Community management, that's pretty straightforward. So we have all these social media accounts and all these groups. We also have a very nice community on Discord where we discuss stuff, and we manage all these channels and communicate with all the developers. Public funding is something that I will probably be talking a little bit more later on, because I remember that I have a separate slide regarding public funding. So we can skip that for now. Also, when it comes to events and education, I will be talking a little bit more about that. And statistics and research is something which I think we are basically going to talk about next. Yeah. So like I mentioned, every year we do some monitoring. In a way, it's called, well, we call it Game Developer Census, which is basically a questionnaire that we send so that we send to all the video game development companies and service providers and outsourcing companies in Slovakia. And since, this is something that you probably are very familiar with, since our country is so small, we are basically able to enforce, but in a good way, everyone to participate. So we have a very, very nice and very, very precise overview how the Slovak game development scene looks in terms of numbers. So as you can see, one of the most important things over here is the overall number of employees or professionals, because not all of them are employees. Some of them have different means of working for a company. This is the number for 2019, like the 30 December of 2019. We still haven't mapped the year 2020, but in the end of 2019, we had 762 people working in the game dev in Slovakia. And as you can see from the previous years, which are these numbers right below the 2019 number, the amount of people working in video game development has been steadily rising. Not sure how your Slovak geography is, but Bratislava, which is the main capital city of Slovakia, is situated in the west. And as you can see on the map, obviously, this is also why most of the video game development companies are in the west. And then in the east, we have Košice, where the 24% of all the game developers are situated, which is the second biggest city in Slovakia. So hopefully now it makes a bit more sense when it comes to the geographical location of all the video game developers. Yeah, and also as we can see on the left over here, we only have one company that basically, depending on how you define it, could be classified as a medium or medium to big sized company with more than 200 employees. And then most of the bigger but still fairly successful companies have only around 40 to 70 employees, and the rest, which is basically the biggest number of companies, are very, very, very small, mostly either startups or indie development companies and such. Yeah. Okay, so what's interesting here? We also have been monitoring for several years now the difference between what women are interested in when it comes to game development, or on what kind of positions they are working. We don't have men. We don't monitor this, but I mean, I dare to expect that probably most of the positions occupied by men would be programmers. As you can see over here, 28%, which is the biggest amount of positions occupied by women, are graphic artists, and then we have marketing and producers. Yeah. Out of those 700 something people, only 125 employees are women, which is something that we as an association would really love to fix somehow in the future, to make the numbers a bit more equal. But I think this is like a very typical syndrome of the video game development world. Every country basically has a significantly lower amount of women working in the video game industry as men. And so we don't really have to talk about these companies, top 10 companies right now, because I will be talking about some of those later on. And in the lower right corner, you can see what are basically the hardest to fill positions. So these are in high demand, and we really are really hard to find good people to employ. This is mainly due to our really lackluster educational system that we have in Slovakia. We really should be working on fixing that. Yep. So, sorry. All right, finance. So again, this is a list of top 10 companies by turnover, the Pixel Federation is the one company that I mentioned that has over 200 employees working in there. And we don't really show exact turnovers of each company over here, but what I can say is that Pixel Federation represents almost 75% of the overall turnover of the whole Slovak video game industry, which is an interesting fact. So we have a very, 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 very big and very strong market leader, and after that, the almost all of the other companies are, at least when it comes to turnover, very, very small in comparison to Pixel Federation. It is a free-to-play company, which isn't surprising. So yeah, and last but not least, in 2019, the overall turnover of the whole video game industry in Slovakia was 51 million euro, which isn't really big when we compare it, for example, to our neighbors, Czech Republic, or I don't know, let's say Poland. CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk this year, I think, was able to earn, I don't know, 100 times more, maybe even more than that, than all the companies in Slovakia combined. But a positive thing over here is that we are steadily growing when it comes to the amount of turnover, and also when it comes to the amount of people employed in the industry by a rate of around 10 to 20% increase every year. And the state support and public funding, I will be talking about that a little later on. Yep, some more stats over here. I think this is slowly starting to get a little bit boring. So important number over here in 2019, 50 video game released, but I mean, it might look like a really huge number, but there are several companies that are basically churning mobile video games at the rate of, let's say, one every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. So this is basically why we have such a high number of video games over here. Yeah, I won't really bore you anymore with all these statistics. You will be able to find them on our website if you will be interested in checking them out more in detail. There will be some links in the end of the presentation. So let's maybe talk about some of the biggest studios. Like I already mentioned, most of them are situated in Bratislava, and I think the top 10 biggest ones generate 94% of the overall revenue, even though we have almost 40 or 45 active video game studios, outsourcing and service providers in Slovakia. So I think this is quite interesting. We have several juggernauts here, but there is also a very interesting, thriving indie scene over here, which doesn't, but on the other hand, it doesn't really amount for a lot of the overall revenue over here. So from those top 10, based on revenue that you could have seen in previous slides, 3 of those are free to play, 4 of those are premium, and another 4 are focusing on outsourcing and services connected to video game development, but also to other industries. Yeah, and it's always good to have it's always good to have big companies, not only a small indie scene, because with big companies come a lot of resources, and some of them are actually aware of what needs to be done and how we can maybe fix or strengthen the industry. So a lot of them are actually investing in corporate social responsibility activities and education that not only helps them as a company, but the whole community in Slovakia can benefit from. On the other hand, there is a big disadvantage with big studios that they can be isolated from the rest of the community due to their own specific needs. So if you have a company with a revenue of 40 or I don't know 35 million euros per year, you don't really care what the small companies do and with what kind of problems they struggle with, because your problems are completely different. So, like I mentioned, Pixel Federation is the biggest one, situated in Bratislava. In 2019, they had 220 people. They are focusing on free-to-play game development, so doing the regular mobile free-to-play stuff. They were actually previously focusing on browser-based games, and they had a period where they were benefiting from the like the video game platform on Facebook that was really strong. Where, for example, Zynga was very successful in the past, but right now they are basically focusing on mobile games only. The second biggest company in Slovakia is PowerPlay Studio. I would say that it's very, very similar to Pixel Federation when it comes to the type of games that they are making, with one big exception, and that is that they actually managed to find a very, very cool and very interesting niche in the free-to-play market, where they only do sports games, but they don't do like regular sports games like, I don't know, football or basketball, FIFA and stuff like that. They actually do very niche stuff like skiing, athletics, and so on and so on. So like their target groups, or ski jumping manager, for example, which might sound really bizarre, but obviously there is a target group there. So they managed to find a very interesting niche, and obviously it's been working for them since 2007. And like I mentioned, when it comes to corporate social responsibility, this studio, for example, supports and promotes a lot of Slovak people from sports, especially those that somehow are competing in the disciplines that are part of their games. Inlogic Software, this is another interesting company. Maybe you remember that I mentioned that we have a very suspiciously high number of games published in 2019. Inlogic company, which is a really, really old company, originally started in 2005. They were a huge developer of Java games, which you might remember was a platform or an operating system that we all had before smartphones became the thing. And slowly they transitioned to Flash games, and from Flash games to HTML5 games, and they ended up also doing Android games. In the last years, they have 2 or 3 like really big hits, but their model never was doing 1 or 2 big hits. Their model was basically creating a new game almost every week, every 2 weeks, and from the huge quantity of games, very simple games that they were able to create, they were able to source their revenues. Another very interesting and bizarre thing is that a lot of the Java games that they were starting with were erotic or had some erotic themes. So you were able to, for example, download games like, I don't know, Strip Poker, or I don't know, Texas Hold'em Boobies 2006 and stuff like that. So very, very bizarre games. They published up until now, I think, more than 300 games. And they are from Košice, which is the second biggest city in Slovakia. Games Farm is another very interesting company currently working on an unannounced project with Funcom, which is a really big publisher. So we are very happy about that and looking forward to what they will do. They are the biggest premium game developer in Slovakia, also in Košice, and also when it comes to CSR, they are very active. Basically, they cooperate 50-50 or even more on organizing the only video game conference in Slovakia that we have with our association. And they also have a fairly small publishing company that is currently the only Slovak publishing company that we have. Hopefully they will manage to strike success with some of the projects they are supporting right now and grow even bigger. And they are very well known for 2 types of games. One of them were flight simulators, but more like an arcade type flight simulators from, let's say, Vietnam, World War II and stuff like that. And then they have the Shadows series, which is basically an RPG, Diablo style RPG, but with some fairly different mechanics. So it's not a clone, but it's a very cool game. And they also won several video game awards in Slovakia. Blueberry Games, this is maybe, I dare to say, maybe I'm mistaken, but this is maybe the first company that their game you might actually heard about or know of. So there is this genre of mobile games that is dominated by the game called The Room, which is like a puzzle mystery kind of thing. And they are making very similar types of games. Two of them, the most successful ones, are House of Da Vinci and House of Da Vinci 2. Very, very, very cool and graphically very nice games on mobile platform, which I recommend checking out. So the company is founded in Slovakia, but the whole team is actually situated in Czech Republic. So yeah, this is also quite interesting. Yep. So that's those were some of the biggest companies. We have many more, but I mean, I didn't really want to cram all of them in here, and I think I will also try to be a little bit briefer when it comes to indies. Except maybe for this first one, because this one I think is very, very interesting. And this is also maybe something that you might have heard about. Their most successful game is called Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic, which is basically a city builder situated in a fictional Soviet Republic. And it resonated a lot with the city builder and management community in the whole world. They are basically the biggest, without the publisher, successful studio that we have in Slovakia. They only have 1 or 2 employees originally when the Soviet Republic came out, but they actually managed to sell up until now, I think, around 200,000 copies so far. So they are scaling up a little bit, and they are still developing the game. And I strongly recommend playing this game, but you have to have a lot of patience because this is like a hardcore, super hardcore management game. Triple Hill Interactive is another game, is another studio that's having quite a lot of success right now. They have a successful Kickstarter campaign. They didn't really collect a lot of money in there, only 20,000 euro. But this was their goal, so they succeeded. And they were also supported by the Slovak Arts Council, so they also got some public funding, and they are creating a very, very cool fighting game, spiritual successor to a Japanese game, which was based on the mechanic of one-hit kill. So it's not like Mortal Kombat that you have a health bar. It's more like you get hit once and then you're dead. This one isn't published yet, so this one you can't really play, but you can, if you want to support them, you can follow them on social media or maybe hop into their Discord to discuss the ongoing game development with them. Fatbot Games, another cool indie studio that's known for their dungeon crawler called Vaporum. We can maybe go a little bit faster. This one is, I think, quite interesting. It's a very bizarre phenomena, and the success story is also very, very cool, but also weird. So these are basically 2 brothers that for several years now have been developing this game called Feed and Grow, which I think, I'm not sure, but it is a multiplayer, like a evolution style game where you basically evolve your fish by eating and preying on other fish. They don't really get in touch with anyone. We just know that they exist. They exist somewhere in the middle of Slovakia, not really interacting with the community or anything. But since the public data of all the companies in Slovakia are freely accessible, we know that they have quite big revenues, and I mean, we wish them luck. So in 2019, this game, I think, had a revenue of around 100,000 euros. So which for nowadays for a 2-member company managed by their mother, because I think they are only 22 or 23 years old, is quite a huge success. Yeah. So Poetic, another cool game, which I think will be might be a breakthrough when it comes to innovation in storytelling. Maybe you know of this very weird genre that's not really that popular in the East, but especially in Japan, it is actually very, very popular, which are interactive novellas or interactive stories, something in between books and games. So this game by Poetic, that's called Sacred Fire, will be something very similar, but it will be extremely stat-based. So imagine like a crossover between these interactive novellas and then a hardcore RPG where you have a dice roll on every single thing that you do. So in this game, you basically do a dice roll or a stats check every 30 seconds on every single decision that you do. And the game is only based on decisions and dialogue trees. Graphics don't really matter. It's more like a like a textually based story with illustrations, but it might be very interesting in the future because the developer of this game is also planning, I think, to publish some framework or mod tools so that people will actually be able to create their own stories. And I mean, I personally believe that it might actually be quite revolutionary when it comes to this literature-based interactive storytelling in video games. They also got a lot of money on Kickstarter when they first started developing their games in 2015. And basically only 2 employees. So this is another example of how a very small studio can have some success if you go the very original and unorthodox way. Yeah, we can skip this. We can skip this, and yeah, another notable companies that we have. So, like I mentioned, as members of the association, but also when it comes to the mapping of the whole ecosystem in Slovakia, we don't only count like traditional video game developers, but we also count outsourcing and service providers and people that basically don't really develop whole games, but develop only parts of them, maybe for some other studios. And we also have a case of 1 or 2 primarily post-production companies that actually figured out a way how to participate also in video game development and stuff like that. Yeah, so maybe if some of you would be interested in searching for some cool outsourcing companies that might help you with your projects, you can maybe check out this this link below, where we have a comprehensive list of all the companies in Slovakia that are interested in outsourcing. Superscale, this is actually, I think, the 5th or 6th biggest company in Slovakia right now, and also one of the fastest growing companies. They mainly specialize on free-to-play games and the mobile market, but they are not a developer. They are a scaling partner or a monetization expert. So what they do is that if you have a free-to-play game and you want, I don't know, a bigger revenue, but you don't know how, you don't have the analytics expert and stuff like that, they will look at your statistics, they will look at your game, and basically will figure out what you are doing wrong and help you monetize the game more effectively, or maybe enter a new market in Asia, for example, which you don't have experience with, and stuff like that. And yeah, they've been fairly successful in the last years. Some of their clients are Electronic Arts or Lego, for example. So I don't know, if you're a free-to-play company, you don't really have to be huge for them. If you would be interested in working with them, mainly what they are looking for is the potential of the project, first and foremost. Grant Beats Production, maybe this is also something that might be quite useful also for other game developers from other countries, is game audio studio, which is like 90% of their focus is basically only game audio and game music. So these numbers, number of employees, 6 is from 2019, but I think they have been growing really fast. They have around 15 employees right now. And as you can see in selected published titles over here, they have been working on some of the projects that I have been talking about previously, like Workers and Resources, and also the guys making the Feed and Grow Fish game. Very cool company, very friendly people. They do a lot of very cool team building parties. Kasa in the game industry is another outsourcing company. This one is like a very traditional 3D modeling outsourcing company, but they are quite high profile. They have been working on a lot of fairly well-known stuff. For example, the Mafia series, which you might have heard of. And also they are working, I think, on a game called Gorn right now, which is like a semi-indie, but very high profile horror game that's being published, I think, this year or next year. Blue Faces, so this is the case that I mentioned previously. It's a VFX company, a film post-production company, but they figured out that they can actually do motion capture for games too. So right now they are the most sought out motion capture company among video game developers in Slovakia. and basically the only one that is doing motion capture for video games in Slovakia too. And Studio 727, another very interesting case of a very not traditional video game outsourcing company, founded in 1997. So it's a very old company, as you can see. They are also a post-production company, but they are very technology forward-thinking and also very technology obsessed. So they started to experiment several years ago with photogrammetry and 3D scanning. And they actually managed to get so far that they have been working on most of the assets for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the 2019 version. So this is like a very high profile photogrammetry company that is actually operating on a global level with global quality. They are definitely worth checking out. They have a very nice website with a lot of making of videos where you can see how they are working on. And a really bizarre thing, which they are very proud of, probably nobody else is or doesn't really get it, but they are very proud that they were able to do, as the first company in the whole world, a full body scan of a horse, like a living horse. I guess it's quite hard to do that because it's, I don't know, a living animal and it's quite big, but yeah, they managed to do that. And they even, I think, had a business strategy which didn't really work out, but they wanted to sell 3D scans of horses to Saudi Arabia because, you know, these kind of countries are very obsessed with horses and breeding horses. But I think it didn't really work out in the end. Yep. And Atomontage, this is basically a startup, but a fairly successful one. I think they already had 2 rounds, A and B rounds of investments. The second round was around 1 or 2 million euros, which we, at least in Slovakia, consider to be a really huge investment in a startup company. And they are developing their own voxel-based engine. So yeah, I'm not a programmer and not even a game developer, so this is quite hard for me to explain, but I guess you might have heard of what voxel-based engines are. For example, Minecraft is a partially a voxel-based game, so you don't have textures, but you have voxels. They can be scaled a lot smaller, and then you can have very, very detailed destructible environments and stuff like that. Blah blah blah. I don't know. I don't really know. But if you would be interested in this technology, definitely check out their YouTube channel where they have some demonstrations. Looks very, very cool. Yeah. So, and we are slowly nearing the end. I will be talking about a little bit about events, education, and public funding, and we are done with the companies. So this concerns basically us as an association, first and foremost, at least the first point. We organize a game developers conference called Game Days in Košice every year, which obviously, if you would be interested, you're very welcome to attend. Another very interesting event, which, well, we'll see if it will be physical in 2021. In 2020, it was digital. It is Bratislava Game Jam. It is the biggest game jam in Slovakia, where around 80 to 100 people participate every year. This is a very, very cool game jam, at least from my point of view, because they're like not like the traditional game jam where you have very conventional topics, but they put a lot of effort into suggesting topics that are more like socially responsible or something like that. So they have, I don't know, this year they had a topic around fake news. A year before, it was some sort of environmental topic. And it might a little bit sound like it's a bit off-putting because you're very limited to a very, very, very specific type of subject. But on the other hand, what they managed to do is they are actually attracting a lot of people that are not conventional video game developers. So a lot of artists that never done a game, or a lot of, I don't know, script writers from the film business and other parts of creative industries attend, because it's not so very video game centric when it comes to these topics and the approach of the game jam. So it's actually very, very cool. Obviously, there are other smaller game jams that are more conventional in Slovakia. So people that are not really, interested in these kinds of games, they don't really have to attend. Yeah, so monthly game developers meetups is basically the thing that we are part of right now, which I don't really have to explain, I guess. And then also, well, COVID really broke this initiative a year ago, but we had a really cool start of a very cool series of events where we basically were trying to pair a certain very specific expert group with video game developers. So first we started with NGOs like Amnesty International and these kinds of NGOs. And they were talking with game developers regarding what they maybe could do together when they were interested in developing a game, and so on and so on. Then I don't even remember what the second group was. We were also planning to do a filmmakers/video game developers meeting where they could maybe look into how they could work together. And we were also planning to organize a fantasy/sci-fi writers and game developers meeting. And obviously, we can't really right now. We don't really want to do it on Zoom because it doesn't have the mojo when you compare it to physical meetings, but we will definitely be continuing with this cooperation in the future. And the main idea behind this is and was that especially in smaller countries where the video game industry isn't really as developed as it could be, people sometimes lack certain types of knowledge that could actually be beneficial for video game developers. So we actually saw that the storytelling aspect of a lot of video games in Slovakia is quite lackluster or weak. So this is why, for example, we were trying to pair the sci-fi and fantasy writers and book writers with video game developers. So this is basically the main idea behind each group that we were trying to get together. Yep. So when it comes to education, I already mentioned this, I think, in the beginning. I think that this is a thing that we are very, very behind with. But this, I think, is also a syndrome, basically, of the whole Eastern Europe that is lacking behind when it comes to the amount of education and universities that actually provide some study programs that are directly connected or concerning video game development. But for several years now, we actually do have a major in digital games theory at the University of Trnava, which isn't really a theoretical major. It's a practical major, but they have to be classified as a theoretical major due to, I don't know, some bureaucracy stuff that they weren't able to solve when they were establishing the major there. And starting this year, which was a really big celebration, at the University of Performing Arts Bratislava, there is a major in game design, which will be starting this year. So we'll see what comes out of it. This is a very, very different type of university because this university is not like for programmers or for technically oriented people. This is an arts university. They have 3 faculties. One of them is the music faculty, another one is the theater faculty, and the third one is the film and television faculty, which the game design major is part of. So maybe in the future we can expect some very cool and very interesting narrative games coming out of there. Maybe cinematic style action games and stuff like that. But to be honest, much more important right now than these 2 official means of educating people when it comes to game development are these 2 private initiatives. The Butterfly Effect Private Initiative is an initiative that was established by the Pixel Federation company that I mentioned previously, the biggest video game developer studio in Slovakia, which is a 6-month, very intensive study program for young people, but also like semi-advanced or beginner video game developers. And they are mostly focusing on free-to-play games because Pixel Federation is a free-to-play company. So this is where the most of the knowledge comes from. But what they do, what's really great about this is that they are covering not only the traditional video game development topics like how do I program this, how do I do concept art, how do I animate this, but they also provide a lot of knowledge and information on business strategies, market analysis, and stuff like this. Because obviously, a free-to-play company puts a lot of emphasis on market analyzing and statistics, you know, and all these various types of indicators. And then Hemisfera is a little less, how to say it? So they are a bit more oriented on children. They have 3 separate, or actually 4 separate types of programs. The first one is oriented on very, very small children. I don't know, it's I think from 7 to 11 or 12 years old. So these are more like very open kinds of workshops that kids can attend, but they are also doing these kinds of workshops on a regular basis. So you, as a parent, can actually send your kid there every week, for example, for the whole year, as you would, for example, do if you would want your kid to study piano classes or something like that. Then they have another program for middle schoolers, another program for like the second level of middle school and also university students. So they are basically covering almost everything from the beginning till you come to the university, which is really great because coming to a university and knowing basically nothing about game development and then going through a university that doesn't really teach you specific stuff about game development, but only teaches you, I don't know, let's say general programming, doesn't really help you to be a better game developer. You have some basics, but you're not really a game developer. You just have the means of becoming one. So these people are actually targeting much younger groups, and they already are working with them and educating them on all of the aspects of video game development in a very young age, which is really, really awesome. Yeah. And last but not least, I also wanted to talk about public funding, which I think is one of the biggest achievements in the last years when it comes to the activities of Slovak Game Developers Association. The Slovak Arts Council is like the main arts supporting funding program in Slovakia, like a really huge one that has a budget of around 15 million euros every year for all kinds of creative arts, ranging from, I don't know, literature, dance, theater, event organizing, and so on and so on. And we were talking to them in 2017. There was like an open letter sent to them, like, why don't you support games? And to our surprise, an answer that came for them, like, we don't know why we don't support it. We would love to. Why not? Let's talk about it. So we were very lucky that like the management of the Slovak Arts Council was very open-minded, which I think is not very often the case when it comes to these kinds of institutions sitting on huge piles of money. And within a year, we were actually able to, together with them, put together a supporting program for video game developers. And basically, this is the structure of the program. So you can apply each year for one phase. You can apply each year for one phase. It doesn't have to be from the beginning. You can skip the first one or the second one if you want, but you can actually, if you're starting from scratch, within 3 years can be supported 3 times at different stages of your game development. So the first stage is stipendium, which is basically targeted for single persons. So me as a single person can apply for a stipendium. I think this is up to 12,000 euros for 1 year, where I can develop all the design documents. I don't even have to make a prototype. I only have to work on a very detailed design document. So you will be working on the technical design document, art design document, and then game design document. When you have this finished, you can apply with those 3 documents for the phase B, where you will be basically showing, I will be making a vertical slice for my game based on these design documents that I have been developing. So like I mentioned previously, you have to have these design documents. You don't have to apply for the phase A. You can make them and just skip it if you don't want 12,000 euros, or it's not really worth it for you. If you have a studio of 5 people, 12,000 euros probably doesn't really make a big difference for you. Then you will be evaluated again. And if the commission likes your projects, you will be able to receive another round of funding, which I think is up to 50,000 in the phase B. The goal of phase B is developing the vertical slice. And again, after a year, you will return to the Arts Council with your vertical slice. And if the commission is happy with the way you're developing the game, and if you're not really, if you know what you're doing and you are able to prove to them that you know what you're doing, you are able to receive another round of funding, which is, I think, in the phase C, can be up to 100,000 euros. To be honest, nobody ever received 100,000 euros so far. The biggest awarded prize in the C phase up until now was, I think, 60,000 euros. But still, this is really, really huge and very, very important. I think for two main reasons. First of all, this helps a lot this helps a lot for, especially for the small and medium enterprises and indie developers. As you can see, the amount of money isn't really big enough for the big video game companies, so they don't really apply here because it's not worth for them. And they wouldn't even receive the money because the Arts Council would immediately be able to identify that they don't really need this kind of money. This is nothing for them. But for the small and medium enterprises and the students coming out of universities that are considering starting their own studio, this is like the easiest, most straightforward way of receiving their initial funding when they want to start working in the video game industry on their own projects. So we consider this to be a really huge success. And yeah, in the last 4 years, so in 4 rounds of the whole program, more than 1 million, almost 2 million euros were allocated. So I think this actually is, when we put it into the amount of supported projects, I think it's more than 120 projects supported, some of them 2 or 3 times. So yeah, I think that's it basically. If you would be interested in most of the stuff that I talked about, this is the address where you can find, for example, all the companies that I talked about, all the statistics that I mentioned. There is also an interactive map there. But you can also, I mean, check the website. There is a lot of more information there on the Slovak video game industry if you would be interested in checking it out. And if you have anything super specific or you're looking for someone in Slovakia, you can always send me an email and we will be very happy to help with anything. So I think that's the last slide.
Yeah. So I didn't see anything mentioned in your presentation about non-video games like board games, for example. Do you consider them game development? Do you include them in your association?
To be honest, no. We don't really deal with board games at all. Simple as that. I mean, we never consider it doing that. I think, I mean, obviously I understand that a lot of game mechanics and a lot of stuff between board games and regular digital games are very close to each other. Like, for example, Dungeons and Dragons basically spawned the huge group of RPG games. But on the other hand, when it comes to like the practical way of how board games and digital games are created, how they are supported and what their markets are and target groups are, these are so very, very different and so far from each other that at least from our point of view, it doesn't really make sense for us as a video game developer association to also deal with board game creators.
What about gambling and
Absolutely no.
games?
Absolutely no. So we have a statute, so like a declaration of, I don't know, all the stuff that we deal with and that we support as an association, and we explicitly have a clause there that we will never be supporting any games that will be dealing with gambling and with real money. So gambling, I don't know, slot games, poker games, and stuff like this is absolutely out of the question. We will never be concerned with them and they don't interest us, and we will never be supporting these kinds of games.
Yeah, the same for us. We also don't include them in our statistics and association.
And also, I think similar as with board games, they are their own type of industry, a very, very different one. Also, like, those huge machines that you have, I don't know, in pubs, for example. That's not really video games. That's a very different industry that belongs to casinos. That's the casino and gambling industry. These are just like, for them, means of earning money. This is not games for them. This is tools for basically earning money or simulating stuff that previously was, I don't know, card based or roulette based and stuff like that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, like I have a question.
Present.
Okay, Laura, go first.
Yep.
Sure.
So first of all, thank you for the presentation. So it was quite insightful. I did like how you started the presentation with we're a small country and our industry is not big, and then presented twice as good numbers as Latvia has. So my first question is to continue Elviss' inquiry about board games. So if board games need any kind of association help or something, if they don't go to you, where do they go?
I don't know. Maybe they have their own association. Nobody ever approached us with a board game, so I'm not really sure.
Okay.
But I mean, another thing is that, for example, if you have a board game and you want to digitize it into a digital game, then you basically are starting to get interesting for us. So also in the Slovak Arts Council that I mentioned, there are cases or two or three projects that were supported in the past that were originally a board game. So yeah.
Okay, and the second question is, you presented how many employees you have in the industry. The question is, are these only the people who work in game development or publishing companies, or are these also freelancers, people who work in services like localization and so on?
Yeah, so these are basically all the people. Localization services, I don't think we have anyone in Slovakia, but yeah, we are also counting in people from those companies that I mentioned that also do VFX and photogrammetry, so outsourcing services and service providers. The audio company that I mentioned also counts, and these are not like legislatively only employees; they are also freelancers. Actually, I think a majority of people working in the video game industry are freelancers, even if they are working under a company for, let's say, 10 years. So yeah, and for when it comes to the like how big we are, I have to emphasize this. If we wouldn't have like this big success with Pixel Federation, the biggest company here, we would actually have a lot less revenues because, like I mentioned in the beginning, this one company represents 74% of the overall video game development revenues in Slovakia in 2019. And they are growing. So, I mean, it's like this constant struggle of but I mean, in a good way, it's not anything bad, hoping that the percentage will go a little bit down because we really want to have a bit more balance between like this one huge juggernaut in all the rest of the companies in Slovakia. But I mean, they know what they are doing. So, I mean, good for them. They are very successful.
One quick question. Do you have any relations with the International Game Developers Association?
Yes, we are a passive member of EGDF. So they have, I don't know.
It's IGDF, but I'm talking about IGDA.
IGDA, no, we don't really, we basically chose IGDF. And IGDF right now, I think, is also in a process of merging with another European association, like more commercial based. EGDF, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if it's actually worth being a member of too many associations. And at least from my point of view, I think EGDF is, at least for European developers, the go-to association right now. They have a lot of doors open. They are able to do a lot of good stuff on European level in the European Commission. They can do a lot of work around commenting on the legislation and stuff like that. So I mean, for us, they are very important, and we are very satisfied as a member, and very thankful that we are able to be a member. Are you a member
Okay, thank you.
of the EGDF?
We are now in talks with IGDA, but about EGDF, probably Laura has more to say. Are we talking to them?
We are currently not members,
Yeah.
but we are considering. Maybe it's worth it. So it was quite interesting to listen to your opinion about that it's actually worth being a member than just because right now our communication is that sometimes we have something to tell them, we just drop them an email, but we are not members, and I understand you are. So what was the main difference when you became members that you felt, wow, this is good?
You get a lot of much more information from them that you wouldn't really receive.
Okay.
So they have, for example, a newsletter where you can study all the new changes in legislation that will probably also be impacting you as a member of the European Union, because a lot of laws in every country, for example, have to be aligned with the directives of the European Union, and they know about this and they can warn you in advance that this is coming, and maybe based on their input, you can actually be, for example, lobbying in your own country, because in certain cases, the legislation doesn't have to be translated like one-to-one in each country, but has certain boundaries. And you, for example, as an association, if you have good connections or are talking to people in the government or lobbying, you can basically have a positive impact on how certain types of legislations might be implemented in your country. This is one of the cases, for example. Yeah.
Okay,
but I mean,
you.
if you would be interested, we can maybe sometime talk about it, then I can maybe tell you more.
Yeah, maybe let's have a separate separate chat about that.
Yeah, but to sum it up, basically, I think the important thing is that the more members they have, the more stronger their voice is. So being represented on a European level by this one big association is, I think, very beneficial. Even if you maybe don't see like an immediate and super high impact that you could be benefiting from as a one specific country, having a strong voice and being unified in this one big association, I think actually in the end is very, very beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, so thank you, and let's move on to the next presentation, and Laura will tell us about Baltic Explorers. So please, Laura.
Okay, so yeah, can I share my
You should be able to, yeah.
Okay, let's try. So just a second. Let's see, can you see me? My screen?
Yep.
Great. So I would love to tell you about Baltic Explorers, which is another EU-funded project for accelerating the games industry in Baltic Sea region. So the project is happening from the very beginning of 2020, and it will end in the very last day of 2022. There are 4 countries involved in this project. So it's Sweden, it's Finland, it's Estonia, and it's Latvia. And there are basically 2 parts in this project. So one is to boost the industry in general by working together with local key industry players like associations. So helping them in setting up events, help them to lobby for some sort of changes and so on. And the second part, which is more interesting to companies and game developers, is the Be Big accelerator. The accelerator is basically made to take local indie companies and promote them and boost them so they can actually go to North American and Southeast Asian markets. And how is that done? It's basically done in 2 ways. So one part is the mentoring, and mentoring is more for in game testing, in legislations, in working with publishers, with in attracting investment. and so forth. And the other part is actually being able to go to B2B events. And B2B events, not local European, but the ones that happen in America and in Asia. So those are, to give you some examples, those are like G-Star, Busan, South Korea. Those are Tokyo Game Show, and those are, of course, GDC. And so the first question is, who can apply to this accelerator? Every country that is participating has different rules who can apply. So Finland, for example, you can only apply if you have already released games, registered the company, and you have at least 2 people working in that company. Latvia is different. You can apply if you're a registered company in Latvia. You can apply if you are a solo developer who has released at least 1 game. And you can apply if you are an unregistered group of developers who has released at least 1 game. How do you apply? You go to the Baltic Explorers website. I will actually copy paste it in. Where can I paste it? I can paste it in.
You can paste it in Zoom, and I will paste it in.
Zoom?
Okay, you can paste it there too. Okay.
I will put, yeah, there. And you find this button, you click on it, and you fill out the form. This is how you apply. We will inform the people who actually get into the accelerator in March 25th. Now, again, each country is quite different in how we approach our participants. So, because the number of companies or groups or people that we have to have in each of these countries differ. For Finland, I think it was about 50 companies. So they will approach their people differently. For Latvia, it was about 10. Which gives us the unique opportunity to talk to people actually face to face, to actually ask them, what do you specifically need? Where do you find your problems? What do you need? And one amazing way that you could actually help me out right now is there's a form that if there's someone who hasn't still filled it, there's a form that I created, which basically asks, I will put it afterwards, sorry. So which simply asks you the questions of where do you find the biggest challenges in doing, doing business in game development. So I think that's pretty much it. To sum it up, if you are a company in game who are developing or publishing games, if you are an individual developer, or if you are a group that develops games and you need support, and you are interested in growing your reach and going out to America, to Asia, then click the button apply now, and yeah, we'll contact you definitely. So I will put in the link to the form. If you haven't filled it out, please do it, because it helps me immensely to understand what your needs are. And that's it. Thanks.
Yep, thank you. And probably, where can people reach you out if they have any questions?
Okay, so in the same page, you can go down, you can find me. You can just write me in LinkedIn. That will work. Yeah, just find me on LinkedIn and write me there. Yeah. If you also go through the channels of the association, you can write through the association as well, the Latvian Game Developers Association.
Yeah, probably if they ask questions on Discord, you probably answer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
any sort of channels that the association use, I'm using as well.
Okay, thanks. And now let's move on to the next part of our meetup, to the discussion part. So today's topic is future trends of the game development. And I will show you some a theme or the topic of discussion, and you feel free to just jump in and comment, and I will also ask questions, and you can just comment and express your feelings and what do you think the future of the game development is. So so I will share my screen. So share. Yeah.
Yep.
So do you see the presentation?
Yep.
Okay. So how I did this, I went through like lots of articles and projections on the next and next few years of game development, and I just wrote down every topic that I saw, and let's just talk about them and see what we think. So the first one is the platform. So what do you think? So now the trending platform is mobile, of course. What do you think? The mobile will stay, or it will be replaced by some other platform? Maybe AR. Apple is now working on AR glasses, VR, or maybe desktop will come back, or any other platform. What do you think? So what's your look on the future?
So my opinion is, yeah, mobile.
And before you start to talk, before you talk, please introduce yourself also.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jānis Skuja. I'm from Latvian Game Developers Association, one of the board members. And yeah, I think that the platform will stay mobile just simply because like most of the population on Earth has a mobile phone. It's just popular thing, and most of the people just can't live without it, and it's just easily accessible. But if we don't count mobile, then I think the next is obviously PC and consoles, in my opinion. Thank you.
And what do you think about web? Web is also accessible on every
phone. In my mind, I counted it as like the PC, but yeah, totally. Like web games are like in itch.io, like most people just play web games. They don't want to download the game, for example. Yeah. So definitely, web games are the future, in my opinion, as well. Yeah.
Any other opinion?
What do you think about these web streaming platforms like Google Stadia or whatever it's called?
Yeah, and can you also introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Andres. I don't know. Did lots of game development in the past. Probably will do in the future.
Yeah. Well, my opinion about Stadia and other cloud platforms are that it's very internet. You need to have a really good connection everywhere that you want to stream the platform. Like a good platform for streaming games now is Shadow, and they are strategically releasing their platform like only in like selected areas. So like only if they know, okay, we can stream the games, they're good, then they release it. Well, it's not only a game streaming service, it's a like operating system streaming service, but you can just play games with that. It works really well where it's available, but it's not available everywhere. With Stadia, I think they were too optimistic. Basically, they wanted to just release it in America. They thought that, yeah, cool, internet providers will support us, but apparently they didn't. But so I think it's a good thing for the future, but I don't know if it's like anywhere in the near future. Maybe in developed countries, like where you have a good internet connection. Yeah.
I think Google Stadia closed their studio or about to close their studio. There was something about that.
Yeah, they laid off employees from the team.
So if Google is
probably
doing
not
that,
a good
it's
sign.
not a good sign for the streaming, yeah, whatever. You got the drill.
And I think 5 or even more years ago, there were earlier attempts at streaming platforms, and that also didn't go
On
off.
live.
Yeah, on live. Yeah, exactly. So it appears maybe, yeah, the infrastructure is not there yet, or there are some challenges that prevents it. If I had to predict platform-wise future, I have kind of feeling that not much is going to change in the near future. Like what we see now, what we've seen in the past, I don't know, 4 years, is going to be something very similar in the next 4 years, unless there is some kind of, I don't know, super unexpected technological breakthrough like iPad or something similar. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be so.
Hi, can I add a few thoughts about streaming services? It's Stepan Spredkalnić here. I'm also a member of Latvian Game Developer Association. I've been using PS Now, that's Sony streaming service, and the streaming quality is okay, but the service is abysmal. I think each year the available streaming game catalog is changing, and there's a lot of people are complaining that games just get outright removed from library or without any notification and whatnot. So I think that Sony has added the streaming service as a sort of technological gimmicks to stand up to Google and or Microsoft, and I think a streaming service for games has a bleak future.
So is here anybody who doesn't agree that mobile is growing even more and will be, or already is, but also will be the leading platform for games in the near future? Yeah, probably everybody agrees. Okay, then let's move on to mobile. What do you think the trends for the mobile will be for the next maybe few years? Where will it move? What genres and revenue models and stuff like that?
I can
Do you
chime in,
think?
I guess.
Yeah.
Vladimir, I'm part of Latvian Game Development Association. I don't think like you can actually predict it accurately, but I feel like as audiences are growing, I feel like mid-core games which will be less accessible to general audiences might gain more popularity because people are accustomed to gaming. They know the basic rules of games, etc. So as the audiences grow up, like as the kids grow up, I think we can expect like more serious games like strategy gaining more popularity if they didn't already. Like I'm just talking out of my butt here, so carry on. But yeah, I think the more complex games might actually get more traction.
Yeah, to add to that, I kind of agree. As like I don't know, PUBG and I'm not sure Fortnite also has mobile version, right? Right.
Yeah, and they're pretty popular.
Yeah, so kind of things like I guess the big brands will kind of also clone their things on mobile, but at the same time, kind of have this feeling that the current trend where only super big players are successful in mobile will dominate, and the rest has to rely on these game factory models where you capitalize on ads, and I mean, yeah, where you have to produce lots of small games which earn, I think, mostly on ad-based business models.
Yeah, and So I have lots of slides, and let's move on. The desktop, and
Can we just one more thing about mobile though?
Yeah, of course, sure.
What do you think about more augmented reality kind of games? I mean, Pokemon Go was a huge thing, but kind of there's no follow-up. Is something more going to happen there? How do you think? What do you feel?
Well, like me personally, I think the AR games require people to move their butt, and that's like a totally no-go. I think that's not gonna happen.
So maybe on iOS, but AR, like for Android, I would say AR Core is still not yet available for everyone, and it's not still stable enough to work for like a widespread model currently, I think. But as I totally agree that people actually need to get off their butts and do something. That's one of the things that people, I think, they like to sit down in a couch and play their game, or play their game while they are moving from home to work in a train and something like that. And suddenly, if you would arise and just play around, it would be a bit weird. So yeah. But as for Pokemon Go, if you're trying to create something similar to Pokemon Go, you're immediately like, oh, you're making a clone to Pokemon Go. That's also a big, big no-no right now. I don't know.
Yeah, on that topic though, I know one game that's really good, but I haven't played it much because, well, I have to go outside, and I don't have like opportunities to go outside much. But there's this Orna RPG game. It's like you also play on the map, and it's like an RPG style game, which you can like also play some things like just sitting at home too. They kind of aimed for the middle ground there, like Pokemon Go and / just building your own kingdoms. It's from what I can tell, it's pretty popular, but I think it's a unique take on Pokemon Go similar games, so much that it's not a clone. But then again, those are like not much, and as Girts already said, that is a problem if you want to make something similar. It's like also the people just assume it's a clone.
I don't think making a clone is any kind of problem. I mean, in mobile, if some like Clash of Clans come out and there's lots of clones, and I believe most of them are quite successful. But I mean, there's Harry Potter Pokemon Go like type of game, right? Some kind of wizard something, but I have no idea, is it doing well or not?
Yeah, I agree actually on this one with Geert. We have to remember why mobile is so popular. It's because of the accessibility. You are riding a bus, take out your phone, play a game. You are at a work meeting, take out your phone, play a game. So try to imagine how would AR fit into these situations. So what do? You in a meeting, you just take it out of your, table or bag and just start, just give me a, like how would that work? Because that is the strong point of mobile. At any time, as long as you have phone and sometimes internet connection.
Yeah, you got a good point. Like
another thing with AR is that currently one of the biggest problems still is that the first thing, one of the things you need to do to start something, you need to accumulate feature points. If, for example, if you need to ensure that somebody sticks on a table or a ground sometimes, well, that's one thing. There's this user requires to do something sometimes for some cases, especially on Android. And the other thing that's a good thing with AR is that one of the issue was that if you have scanned something, if you have calibrated something, it's usually that's not persisting between sessions. And currently there are new features that allow to special anchors to persist, and it's a good direction towards maybe more AR games in the future. And AR Core, which is Android's version of ARKit, is just added that as well. So maybe there will be something new in
but I think that's like technological issues that these are minor issues that will probably not make AR a trendy thing. That's like, okay, it's a bit more accessible, but people will not overcome their laziness and stuff like that. And also what Laura said,
I would say AR is more like a buzzword right now. Just we are doing this game that has AR in it, so the game looks more appealing because it has buzzword in it. The same thing, for example, if you want to get attention that way, you might also throw in machine learning, so something like that. So, but again, AR is really great for industry purposes, like scanning something like warehouses and all that stuff.
And also maybe content generation, like if you have AR and you lay down maybe some level or something like that on the table, and then you edit maybe the content for your game with AR, maybe that could be a way for AR to get more popular, because I saw that there are some tools like that for Unreal Engine and stuff like that. So but
also
for consumers.
Also, Eric nicely in chat pointed out, which is actually a fair point, that Pokemon Go is not an AR game; it's a geolocation game. So, what about geolocation?
Well, technically, it has like AR feature that you can,
but you can turn it off.
Camera in background, but it's not like true AR.
It's not.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, you can actually turn it off and play it without the AR.
For example, I did turn off the AR. That was the first thing I did.
Yeah, it's easier to catch the Pokemon without AR.
Yeah, so about the geolocation, I'm not sure, because that suffers even more from the problem that you have to move. You not only have to move with your phone, but you actually have to move outside of your flat. And even now, and especially now when the lockdowns are everywhere and stuff like that, at least not for the near future.
But would you... Okay, well, sure. Nowadays the situation is as it is in the lockdown, but I mean, so is your argument that Pokemon Go immense popularity was just because of brand?
I mean, before that it was Ingress, right? Ingress was also super popular, and the same company made Pokemon Go on top of it. So,
but small fraction of, in terms of popularity when compared to Pokemon Go.
Yeah, of course, and I think that it was a combination. Like there was a good game base underneath, like with all the points, like interest points, and then plus Pokemon, and it's boom, exploded, right?
I do think that it was actually the brand, because think about it, most of the audience actually grew up with that cartoon. They were, as kids, they were playing these Pokemons and so on. And then comes along this mobile game that actually allows you to, in real life, catch and see Pokemons, which is like your childhood fantasies come alive. And definitely the brand and the very fact that the game is so much like bringing the movie into life, that was actually what carried it along. It wasn't so much that they have this new technology.
I agree.
Yeah, so let's move on maybe because we have lots of slides. The desktop and consoles, how do you see the future for, I put them in the same slide because I think it's probably somewhere something like the same, maybe auditory, but I'm not sure.
Actually, I have to say that I could never understand the point of consoles because, I mean, why buy Xbox or PlayStation when you can just buy a computer? And especially the fact that you have to like throw out your old console and buy a new one every time there's an upgrade. Okay, there are people saying that the thing that keeps people away from getting their own gaming PC and just buy console is because they don't want to assemble a computer. But you're gonna pay less if you find a professional who puts in the new components. No,
that's not right. Actually, console is first. It's a lot cheaper than PC. You can search online for videos where people try to assemble PCs with the same specs as consoles, and they cannot manage it for even twice the price. The second is you don't want, like, for example, me, I don't like when my work and play is on the same device. I have to have a separate device for play, and it's a lot easier for me. The third is it's really easy to find games on consoles. You just turn it on and you play. For PCs, you have to update Steam, download Steam, buy games, find how to actually play them. That's a hassle. I like when I turn on the device and immediately start playing. Also pairing the controllers and stuff like that. Of course, you can do it pre-play, but still it's more than I want. I want just a few seconds and I'm in the game. Also, the games will always have they will run on the maximum spec on your console, and they will go on 60 FPS or 30 FPS for whatever is configured for the game. On the PC, it's a game of luck. Either the game will work on your PC or not, or maybe some scenes will work on 60 FPS, some scenes will drop to 20 FPS. On the console, every scene will be tested and it will never drop below what is recommended. So and that will last for years. Like you buy console and for 5 years you'll have the latest games in the market and they will run smoothly on your device. On contrary, on PC, you buy the newest game, and if you have a 5-year-old computer, that costs you a lot more than console, but the game will not work well, and you will have to drop lots of settings. And so, for me, these are the reasons why I will always prefer console over PC. And of course, it's more quiet, but that's also because when I turn on PC, like nobody can hear each other after I turn it on. The console will stay quiet in the corner, and it's also small. It doesn't take up as much space as PC. So yeah. So there are lots of reasons.
I can add something about the technical versatility. Elviss, you mentioned in 2015 when Bloodborne came out, the loading times for the map areas were like from 30 seconds to 1 minute, and it was quite annoying for a lot of players. Well, if Bloodborne came out on PC, a lot of people could have done something about it. Either way, tweaked the settings, upgraded the PC, or modded anything. And yes, the Bloodborne fans had to stick with this issue until the From Software issued the patch. So that marks quite a point for the technical versatility. It all depends on the developer and the publisher for the availability of console games. But yeah, on the point about trends, I predict a lot more cross-platform playing for PC gamers, for Xbox gamers, or PS4 game merged in the future. It will be a lot more merged.
I think it's fair to expect.
Was too long. Yeah,
I think it's fair to expect quite a bit of multiplayer games on these platforms, mostly because of lockdown. But I mean, they were popular before, but right now we see the rise of, I don't know, social things, like Fall Guys or Among Us, basically a way for people to meet and spend time together rather than just play. Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the possible trends of the next years.
Yeah, for me, my favorite console is the Switch because it's unique. I won't buy like Xbox or PlayStation anytime soon because like I had Xbox 360 some time ago, well, when it came out basically, and I really regretted it because I think Giannis mentioned that I bought Skyrim on Xbox. I couldn't mod it. I watched all my friends play with mods. I was very jealous. Also, I did like I kind of in Latvia we didn't at that point at time we didn't have Netflix, so I couldn't really use it as a like living room, you know, kino the stuff, and it was fairly useless actually. Yeah, and I later found out you can just attach like up to I think 8 controllers using the wireless receiver to your PC. So the Xbox kind of became redundant. That said, from time to time I see like exclusive games on consoles that I really would want to play, but that doesn't just justify the purchase for me. But on the other hand, like Switch has all these gadgets. Like right now we just bought this Ring Fit device that it's a game where you exercise using this ring controller stuff, and then there are like cardboard stuff where you can make things, actual things like robots and stuff, and play with the Switch. And I like that innovation. I always like also like Wii and stuff like that. They don't produce like super high quality like graphics wise games, well, except for Zelda I think, but still it's 720p. But then again, the innovation and the way Nintendo does stuff for their consoles, I think has like a justification. It's a different thing than desktop. So, but the other ones
do you think that will,
I don't know.
Do you think that will be a future, like physical games connected to video games, or
I mean,
like for me personally, I don't think. Yeah.
I think it's a niche thing, right? For me, if you want to sell me a console, it needs to be unique. It needs to do something that a PC can't do. And Nintendo Switch currently, like some games do that. But other like consoles, I mean, I need to invest a lot more money into the PC, as you said before. Consoles are cheaper, but still, like I will invest in my PC. Also, I can run some programs like I don't know, Blender or stuff, and just play the games I can on PC. Maybe sometime later the exclusives will come out on PC. That's a thing that's happening now. But for consoles, for me at least, I do need to have like some hardware component there that's unique. Well, maybe.
So I heard one. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you can speak.
Yeah. So I heard one trend is multiplayer games. Do you think there will be any other strong trends in the future?
I think post-apocalyptic games would be not as popular, to be honest. Like everyone is tired from that stuff. But yeah.
I actually, Vladimir said this one, and I was so excited for Cyberpunk. I just couldn't wait. I was counting days, counting years, counting days, and then it came out at the same time with COVID, and the ambience of the Cyberpunk is it's dark future. Everything is sad. You know, the nature is poisoned, and people are dying in droves, and we have COVID. I quickly finished the main storyline, and I went back to The Witcher, because I didn't want more of that. It was such a bad timing for this dark future game. But regarding multiplayer, I have actually heard it a lot. People saying multiplayer is the future. People will, in the future, all games will have multiplayer. I strongly disagree because people play games for different reasons. For example, I hate multiplayer games because the very reason I play games is to get away from people. And now there are people in my game. No, like
Oh,
I
yes.
love Elder Scrolls Online, but I would absolutely play that game for hours if it didn't have people in it. Can I play alone?
Yeah, but now it's different times and people actually want to meet each other. So I think that's not an argument anymore. For me, before COVID, it was the same. I wanted to play games alone, but now even I, who have denied multiplayer games for so long, even I have now switched to multiplayer because I want to meet my friends and stuff.
Yeah, I don't feel the same way. Zoom meeting is completely enough for me. That is entire, days worth of social interactions. And I don't know, I should be stranded on a silent island for a year to actually want to play games with other people.
Yeah, for me, I would like speaking about multiplayer, I would like to see more party games like Jackbox games, because those games you can play with your family who are not the gamers, and actually it's like a board game night, I guess, in a sense, but online. Those ones I could see, like if you're talking about right now in this situation, they have an upper hand. If you release a game like that now, I think you can get somewhere with it. After COVID, though, I think everybody will just go and meet their families and actually play board games. Yeah.
I think definitely gaming will continue to be influenced by streaming, namely how watchable a game is can often influence how popular it is. For instance, there's this idea that horror games became much more popular due to streaming because people love seeing how streamers react emotionally to horror. And so nowadays various multiplayer semi-cooperative or semi-PvP horror games. Likewise, I think roguelites have this thing where the content always changes, so it's always interesting to see how streamers overcome it.
Yeah, you actually brought up a good point about streaming. Like, I lately saw that a lot of games do actually create like Twitch overlays. Like, for example, the recent Baldur's Gate game, you can actually let the chat choose the dialogue options for you. Like in the Twitch overlay, you don't have to in the chat or anything. It's right on the overlay of the streamer. You can just push the dialogue options for the streamer. And I think that will, we will see a lot more games do that.
But actually, I listened to a quite interesting talk where the whole idea was that how streaming is bad for story-driven games. Because if you watch it online, why buy it? After all, the main idea is that people buy the game, and more people buy, more income. So if there are a ton of people watching it, there were specific games where streamers were forbidden to stream more than the very beginning of the game. Otherwise, they were sued.
Yeah, that's a problem of story-driven games, not streaming.
Yeah. I think the rules are as they are, and you probably either play by the rules and don't make story-driven games, or you lose money and make story-driven games. Like, that's the reality.
I mean, I sometimes actually buy story-driven games because I want to choose different options than the streamer does. But that's me. That's not everybody. Yeah.
I actually don't remember the last time I played a story-driven game. Yeah, probably because of the reason that I know what is going to happen there.
Well, I recently finished one, I think. Darkwood.
Oh, Darkwood was nice.
It was awesome.
Yeah, really nice. It's a gem. I can also add, we are Slovak. Okay.
Yeah, probably let's move on.
Yeah.
Because we have lots of slides. So we are. What will be the trends in this platform?
I think we'll have more well done, more pretty, more filled with content single player VR games, because Valve has really upped their game with Alex. Alex was a huge success for VR. But that trend won't expand much if the tech for VR won't get cheaper in time. So when tech gets cheaper in time, we'll get a lot more quality games in VR.
Well,
Yeah.
the tech just got cheaper. It's the Oculus Quest 2 was just released, and it was closer to the usual consumer, and more and more VR stuff appear. Basically, Oculus is close of taking over Steam VR, and plus another thing is that as the most games in VR are made in Unity. Currently, the latest Unity versions still have issues with Open VR. Basically, that is basically Steam's. If you want to add Steam VR support, you need to use Open VR, and if you want to do that, you need to use the old Unity version still. And if you want to ensure that your VR game runs on both Oculus Quest and Steam VR, it's a big hassle because you can't use the new features. And that's the problem for me again and again and again. And for example, in the last Game Jam, I really hoped that it has changed, but it hasn't yet. And therefore, I had to downgrade several versions down to ensure that something works for both of them. So, and to be short, Oculus Quest will take over. Will take the biggest market. I mean, the PC VR will be there, but I would say in the next year we will see Oculus Quest and the new Oculus Quest, or whatever it will be called. The market share will become closer, as the Facebook has approximately how it will move towards mobile numbers, and PC VR will move towards desktop numbers, something like that. That's it.
Well, what about multiplayer in VR?
Oh,
is it a thing?
There will be more.
Thing, yeah.
There are some, like Echo VR. It's really popular, and Rec Room and all that. Or of course the classic VR chat.
There are decent gun VR, multiplayer gun VR games that are similar to Counter-Strike, and people are enjoying them. And also the huge popularity of VR chat that lets socialize people. It's quite important in VR market.
Yeah, actually, regarding VR, there are often these discussions, why wasn't it the next big thing? Why doesn't every person have, a VR set and playing constantly VR games? And usually people are mentioning, well, the tech is expensive and the setup might be difficult or something like that. I don't think we pay enough attention to the social aspect of VR. First of all, I had this interesting conversation with the owner of Portals. It's a VR arcade in Riga. And she said that a lot of people are bringing their children, to have fun with VR. And they're offering the parents, come on, put on the glasses, try out what it is. And people are just, absolutely running away. Please don't put that on me. I'm going to look stupid in front of other people. And it's impossible to put on. I actually brought my parents there. I was begging them for almost 30 minutes to put it on, because there was this big window and people were passing by and seeing, what's happening inside. And they were like, no, what would people think of me? And we disregard this social aspect of a lot of us feel not okay because first of all, we don't see the world around us, and that is including me. I don't like having the set on because I know there are people around me, there are things around me, and I have no idea where they are. So even in expos, when I'm walking around, I'm very often, offered, come on, try our game, it's VR. And like, no, it's fine. I'm just gonna, look at the screen. And we disregard this social aspect that enough people just, first of all, they feel uncomfortable with basically blindfolds on while they have to move. And second, then other people see them like this.
I totally agree. I think
I also agree.
Currently the kind of like shortcomings of VR, like price and this social comfort aspect is too much and not enough value proposition that you gain for it. And if I had to make a prediction, I predict that during the next 4 years, no game like Half-Life Alyx will come out unless it's made by Valve. I actually think no one else will do such a flex.
Okay, and esports. So every article I read about future trends of games mention esports. Do you think we will see new esports games? Will it be a trend? What do you think?
I think for sport to be a sport, the games have to be like concise, if that makes sense. For example, like League of Legends and I guess Dota, they mostly like stay concise. Like I mean, they don't change. Like they don't do huge changes. That's why it's such a big esports game. Like Fortnite, I don't know. I haven't played it, but I think they also like stick to like one formula, and I think those big games will just stay on the top. And about new games, it's super hard to get in to esports, right? You have to promise the players this game will be around for a while. Like there are so many failed MOBA games out there. I think Heroes of the Storm, if it's still available, I don't know about it. Do people play it actually? Because it was a cool game, but it wasn't esporty enough, I guess. So I don't know if we will see like in the near future any big games. Like okay, Fallout guys, like not Fallout guys. What's it called?
All games.
Last of Us.
Yeah, that game was
Among
like is big but it's also like it's like a luck based game. You can't. It's not really skill based, but still it's big because it's like it resembles this Takeshi's Castle type of show. It's funny, but I don't know if there's like a lot of room like to create new esports titles. I think the ones are there will like most likely be there. It's very rarely that there are like these
What do you
huge
think
new
about
games.
platform? Will esports stay in the desktop and console market, or they will maybe move to mobile?
It is in mobile.
Like,
Clash Royale has a huge esports scene.
yeah. And do you think there will be more mobile esports games?
I think they definitely have a chance to grow, and they have a chance to overtake some of the the PC audience by introducing new features or maybe mobility in it or something like that. But I don't know if they will ever become bigger than the games that are meant for PC, like in the
Andres,
audience.
you mentioned Clash of Clans.
Clash Royale.
Clash Royale. Yeah, is it esports?
Yeah, they have an esports scene with
okay.
international tournaments
and nice.
that. Yeah, I think esports gradually will continue growing, but yeah, it's difficult to predict if any game will like suddenly overtake any of the esports.
Probably another esports mobile game I see is Hearthstone, which could be considered esports. They have regular tournaments and with
sure.
huge prizes. Yeah.
But yeah. Otherwise,
Okay,
I think actually Fall Guys kind of like this pop esports. I think can be more likely to be popular. Yeah, like Takeshi Castle style esports.
Yeah.
That might emerge.
Yeah, I also thought of Takeshi's Castle.
Yeah, of course they don't lie that they didn't take ideas from Takeshi Castle. About the web, do you think it will be a trend, and what new like what I see is more and more browsers now support more WebGL features, and Safari will come with WebGL 2 features in the next month, in March. So do you think 3D and maybe hardcore games will come to web?
Well, I
What do you
hope
think?
so, because I really like the fact that I don't have to download and wait for a game.
Yeah, agreed. I've noticed that a lot of developers, indie developers, use embed the web to just place the demo of their project, and it's really nice way to access the game. You don't have to download anything, and you can even
Oh, that's
embed.
interesting.
Yeah,
I
they
didn't know
can
that.
you can even embed I don't know, PS2 style graphics if you're making a retro shooter or something like that, just to present your idea, put your prototype out there, send a link to your friends for feedback. And but for more serious gaming, I don't know. I remember that like 15 years ago there was like a trend for web embedded games for robot arena type games that had like primitive 3D graphics. I don't know if it's gonna make a return.
Regarding web, one thing that I noticed when I was working on a game that was completely web-based is how easy it is to make cross-platform like multiplayer or things like that. Because a PC, does it have HTML5? Yes, it does. Mac, yes. A phone, yes.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Apple TV, no.
TV, no. Consoles, no.
Yeah.
But still, imagine how big
Yeah.
is the market if you put together a PC and a Mac
Of
and
course.
all of the phones. Because here again, it doesn't matter if it's Android, if it's iOS, it still works. And we were actually able to create these level creation systems where one person creates a level on Android phone and another person can just open it up on their Windows PC and play it.
And also there's this feature as progressive web apps, if you have heard about that, and I think that's a future trend for web, where you actually download the web game in your browser and it's like an app, a separate app that maybe you can place it on your screen on your phone, and you don't have to use App Store. You just download the web game on the web, and Firefox doesn't support that currently, but Safari and Chrome on desktop already supports progressive web apps. So I think that's also a trend for the future.
I have a question, but is there any like meaningful web game market at the moment? Like, I mean,
I don't see web. Yeah, I don't think web as a. I think the web whole as one market will probably be the future. You go to Google, you say, I want a battle royale web game, and you just get the links. You open, and immediately you get battle royale. That's what I actually did a month ago, and played a lot of mini royale too. Maybe too much.
Yeah, for platform. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So the thing about web games is that it's not like a PC premium game, which you think is this one product. Web games tend to be something that is integrated in a bigger system, like a chat maybe, or because when I was traveling around and pitching this game, actually Europeans were kind of like, eh. And then I met people from China, and they were like so stoked about it because they have more of this concept of like watching movies or playing games and getting real rewards, or this idea that you build an entire platform around it, around some kind of brand. Europeans are more like, I want this premium product.
Well, if you look at agar.io and lots of actually similar games, .io games, they are one game, you just open it and you immediately play, and they are massively popular. Like agar.io its revenue was $100,000 a day.
Mm-hmm.
So they are huge. So I don't think they need any chat or anything. You just open it, they show you some ads, and that's it.
Yeah,
So
it's
basically, the point of the web game is to basically open the game and play it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
For example, I can say that my game, which I made in 2013 as a tech demo, Alex Nichipochik published it on his where he was working at that time before TinyBuild. It was public, it was copied everywhere. It had in few years about 5 million plays. So it was copied all over the web. And in one of the sites that I control, where I get some revenue from it, for example, in the last year, I got 1.2 million plays in just one site. And it's a pretty shitty game. I mean, it's a tech demo that I made in like 1 week. And when I was a newbie Unity developer, but what I can say that web is definitely growing, because currently I'm making an update to this game because it's giving me some money finally. So yeah.
Two more things about web. One, okay, it makes sense that there is lots of people there, and but I'm completely sure that at the moment web game presence has, like, I don't know, halved or just a quarter of what it was a small moment ago because of Flash death. And secondly, I remember one absolutely huge web game market, which is gambling. Not our topic, but that's a huge thing on web.
I think to kind of go a bit back, of course, web absolutely has this ability to create these, kind of standalone experiences. But web is unique, that you make a game and then you decide to integrate it somewhere, you can absolutely do it. It's easier to put it in some sort of chats or platforms, especially online platforms or communication channels or something like that. Not like, a premium PC game.
Yeah, probably we are talking here about web as a platform versus web as a technology. Yeah, of course, if you create a web game and you embed it in an app and then put it on App Store, I wouldn't consider that a web game anymore. Yeah, it uses web technology, but that's a downloadable application on the App Store, and that's an iOS or Android game, not a web game anymore.
Well, it doesn't have to be downloadable. For example, itch.io, there's a lot of web games there. It's just a hosting platform. But
that's web as a platform. But
yeah.
But Laura is talking web as a technology, as you can create one game and then publish it on different platforms.
No. I was actually kind of trying to give this example of, you go to this specific site that is hosting this game, and this game is kind of like, well, it's kind of is like a standalone experience, because you go for that game, you just play it. There's nothing like outside of it. There's no additional interaction. But you can easily take this game and then put it into some sort of bigger platform that relies on the mechanics of this game to create more content outside of it.
Yeah, that too. And I also wanted to say, like, web like, okay, this is as a platform also. Like, there's a Godot specific site, Gotham.io. They offer, for example, a free server for a multiplayer game. You just, in API, you just connect to the local host, and then you have like a free lobby server for your game. And a lot of, I think this is not the only platform that does it, but it's pretty cool to think that in web you have this all these APIs you can just use like within this platform to ease things for the developer to make easier like multiplayer games and stuff like that too. So that's a thing also which is like pretty nice if you have a web game.
So I think we will skip cloud gaming because we already talked about blockchain. Well, do you have anything about blockchain?
I have
Probably
no
there will be
experience,
games.
but the last talk was about blockchain cuties, and I got to thinking that it's pretty cool concept, like to have these Ethereum contracts, so you can use it in any other games, and you basically have this unique collectible. So I think that's a good way to go, like create collectibles. There's also like unique art pieces, but that's not gaming wise. But yeah, for collectible games, I think blockchain could be like really good.
And about the revenue model, what do you think will be the future trends of the games?
I see a lot of subscription type games, like you buy season passes and stuff like that. I don't know if I fully support that, but I see it more and more.
I think there will definitely be some sort of shift, but I don't expect that, maybe free to play or subscription models will just blow up and take up the entire industry. Because as I said, people play for different reasons and people enjoy different types of, of models or even like subscription models in general. Some people like to go through a lot of games to get, the core experience and just take the parts that they like. Some people like me are completionists. I buy one premium game and I expect it to sit in my library until I find every single collectible there. And I think this is something that we tend to dismiss, that there are different types of players that expect different sort of games, and that includes the revenue model as well. Some people simply love the fact that they pay once and get everything, and they absolutely do not want that to change. Some people, hate it. They hate that their library is cluttered with stuff they never play. They want, to quickly try it and move on.
Do you think Apple Arcade model will be copied elsewhere?
You mean you subscribe and get games monthly?
Yeah, I mean Netflix for games.
I mean, I already subscribed for Humble Bundle, and I have a Amazon Premium also subscription. I get games from them. The thing is, I rarely play them. Like I have the full library of games, but I don't play them.
Actually,
I was subscribed to Apple Arcade for half a year, I think, and I played like one game. So
yeah,
as a developer, I hope that it will be a trend, but I don't think it will be.
Actually, right next to us, in our neighbors in Lithuania, we have Netflix for games, for indie games, which is Utomic. Basically, you just pay €8 or €6, and you get access to a massive indie game library. So definitely the model will show around, and it will adapt to the needs of the market. So as I said, this one is specifically for indie games. Something might be for a specific genre or a specific console. I think Netflix for games will be a thing, but I don't think we will completely move to it.
Yeah, I see a problem with these services as they are easily hackable. Like if you create a clicker game, people spend a lot of time on your game and a lot less time on some maybe story-driven game or something like that. And this revenue split is based on how much time you spend in the games. So if
not always, not always.
Yeah, well, they try to balance that so that story-driven games also earn something, but they still will not make as much as maybe online games or
like
maybe
Atomic,
these
for example,
games.
they do it very simply. They just buy your game with one purchase, one transaction, that's it, and it stays forever on their platform.
What do you mean?
They purchase a license?
They purchase the license for them to be able to, host your game on their platform for indefinite amount of time. And there are actually a lot of games they have managed to buy that way.
That sounds awful. That means 1,000 people play your game and they pay only once. Oh my God! I hope that this is not a trend for the future.
Yeah, that sounds super bad.
Yeah, that's sketchy.
I would never allow to buy my game once and allow it to be played by 1,000 or maybe more people. That's like nobody will buy my game ever if it's available there. Like I don't know.
Yeah, but they have managed to get tons of indie games, tons.
Yeah, but I mean, nobody wants to play those indie games anymore.
Yeah, exactly. They at least get one purchase. But I don't think that will be a trend. At least, for example, for Apple Arcade, you actually get a monthly revenue from the game based on how many people and for how long play your game. So that's at least fair. But getting one-time purchase and that's it, I don't know. Doesn't sound good.
Speculate the future of premium revenue models are more likely that there could appear more restrictions. Like maybe, I don't know, someone again will realize that some kind of practice is predatory and they'll like loot boxes, there will be more prohibitions. So I'd say that there might be not expansion, but contraction of types of revenue models.
Well, I hope that fear of missing out revenue model will die, but I think it won't, but I hope it will. Like all the get it now, it's only costs that, and a second later it costs even less because you didn't get it like previously, like, and they're like just bombarding with you these ads, so you need to get these diamonds. I really don't like that. But
I don't think it will die out
because it works,
multiplayer games actually, that's how they function.
Yeah.
Dismount only for this Christmas and that's it, it's gone. Because this is how
What do you think? What do you think about premium model? Because making games is becoming a lot more expensive. And one-time payment for a game is probably will not cover the expenses of development. So, do you think it will be here to stay, or it will disappear?
Yeah, premium model is definitely a difficult topic because when you interview players and you ask, is 80 euros a lot for one game? They answer, yeah, that's a lot of money. Yeah. And the thing is that a lot of AAA companies have said that we are, not covering enough. They should be at least, 200 euros if we want to actually, but the thing is that, as I said, there will be people, me including, that simply love to pay once and get everything. And if they have any chance to use this type of payment model instead of anything else, they will use it, at every single opportunity, because this is their preference. And unless they are forced, because the model disappears from the developer side completely, they will not move.
I'm absolutely sure that it's going to stay, because when freemium exploded, everyone said premium's dead, premium's going to go away. It didn't disappear anywhere. there's value in it. And nowadays, like big companies often just upgrade their premium games also with in-game purchases. So they kind of get this game as a service business model as well.
And also DLCs, paid DLCs.
Yeah. Because I think one thing that will change is that games will become more expensive because public is made gradually aware of how hard it is to make games, of the fact that crunch is a thing, and it's being told to general public. It's not just something that we developers know now, and it will slowly become the fact that this is an expensive thing. This is a luxury thing to buy. Of course, it's not gonna go everywhere, no, but countries that have a generally high income will slowly accept that games are expensive. Countries with low income will continue to pirate them.
I'm kind of skeptical that that aspect will influence people's willingness to buy. What I'm really certain is that there's going to be like lots of focus on existing like popular brands. Like the big companies will not risk new original AAA games. They will focus on established working brands. Like the Assassin's Creed game is going to be made forever. You're going to die, and there's going to be a new Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, talking about that. So the genre. So do you think the genre will stay the same, and even IPs will be the same, or we will see more new IPs or maybe new genres? Like I was hoping that auto chess will become a thing, but it seems that it didn't, because that's like a totally innovative gameplay. What do you think? There will be new genres or not in the near future?
I think I can kind of continue a bit on what Andres said. I had talked with someone from Ubisoft, and they were actually saying that, as Andres said, we are not going to risk with our big titles to make something new, but we do have a huge fund for indie developers, so they try out. If they fail, we don't, lose that much out. If they succeed, we quickly buy it over, and then continue on that. If there is going to be a new genre, it will be invented by indies, because AAAs can't risk it.
Yes. Yeah. About trending genres in indies, the retro shooters will die down a bit. I think it started now. We might maybe see a revival of RTS, real-time strategy games, because people have been aching a bit more for those. And we'll get a lot more experimental games, a lot more.
So talking about experimental games, so do you see the development process will be more experimenting in the future? And so, for example, Tiny Build, they have internal game jam team. So they come up with new ideas in their internal game jams, and then see which one has a potential, and then make it in a bigger game. Do you think maybe there will be any changes in the process, how games are made? Like I see now lots of games in mobile are made like in 2 or 3 week development spans. What do you think about the development?
I mean, the core engine is getting big, that you have like ready-made pieces that you can put together, and you can actually create a cool game. Yeah, that too. So in a way, some things for indies are getting easier, but then again, if you use core, for example, you're locked in their platform. That's a big no-no, for me at least, and for a lot of others. But then again, it's pretty cool that there exists such a thing. So yeah, well, it's hard to say. Like, I think it will be less coding, more visual stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah. So the game engine. What do you think? what is the future game engine, at least near future? Is it still Unity, or is it Unreal Engine, or maybe Roblox?
I think Unreal actually just released a sneak peek of their MetaHuman thing that like it's super realistic and like how human like face and everything, emotions, like they look super cool. So I think a lot of people might jump on that trend, but I also think that Unity is going nowhere. Like Unity is here to stay because everybody is using it.
Unity is here to stay, but I think it's not going to advance any further. Well, I don't see any trends. Anyone else can comment on that?
It doesn't look like Unity will gain more market share. If they probably lose like close.
Actually,
they'll lose some market share to Unreal, definitely.
There are regions and there are where Unreal Engine is more popular, and there are even some predictions that actually if not already is, then it will become more popular than Unity this year or next. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think in general, both Unreal and Unity they're here to stay, because the thing is that if you make a company and you're using one of these engines, you already get employees that know how to work with it. You know, if you take something that is relatively unheard of, then you have to teach people. And how many companies do have these kind of resources to teach people from scratch how to use a new game engine? Okay, you know, CD Projekt Red and Ubisoft, they have their in-house engines. But they're definitely here to stay. And I think one of the things that will hugely help the engines is things like asset store and stuff like that, where you can very quickly make and prototype the things that, you know, usually it used to take up the biggest part of the development process, the visual and the basics, like, you know, character walking or something like that. And now you can set it up in minutes. It's working, and you can actually focus on these new innovative things that you wanted to make.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with Laura on that one. But I had a question, two questions. One is, so effectively, because of these engines for small scale game development, it has become much cheaper than like years ago. Can it become even cheaper?
Probably. Maybe we'll get module-based game engines where you can, for the lowest price of $5.99 and I don't know, free licensing options, you get the most basic stuff, and as you buy more modules you can add more graphical fidelity for your project or something else. Like, think of an asset store but with like different rendering pipeline, different integrated audio systems, maybe a different physics engine. I'm just speculating right now. But another thing I wanted to mention, that we might see rise of voxel engine based games. Teardown was quite successful. We've yet to see previously presented Atom engine, yeah, that this guy from Bratislava mentioned.
So answering Andrei's question about cheaper, so returning to Roblox, it's really cheap to make a game on Roblox, and their top games actually earn like $5 million a year. So it can become a lot cheaper if you've got a ready-made platform where you just actually focus only on creating the game and not anything else. Like not the content for it.
Is what role do you think AI will play in game development? For instance, I don't know, will people use AI generated music instead of looking for composers?
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
It's already here. like Unity is like experimenting with AI generated terrains and content, and Unreal Engine definitely too. So
we'll get a lot of more projects with procedural animations, as procedural animations
but I
have
don't
been
think it
taking
means
off a lot.
Yeah, but I don't think it means less work, because it will create a lot more content, but the demand for even more content will be there. So
yeah, this is exactly the thing. The workforce kind of stays more or less the same, but the demand for higher quality games is growing hugely. Now there's no excuse that you're a solo developer. Your game has to be top quality, and there's just no way you can do it all alone. So it's kind of like, you know, how animations for The Witcher was made. It was AI generated, and then an actual animator went over all of those conversations and just tweaked them so they actually look natural. Work will, you know, we will still need composers and animators to go and prove it that it's okay. But we just need to generate so much content that we actually desperately need AI for this.
And okay, let's move on to the last thing. So you will not find probably you'll find no resource about future trends without mentioning 5G. What do you think about that? Is it a buzzword, or is it really going to change games industry?
I mean,
Yes, until 6G comes.
I mean, it does make game, like, if it's more accessible internet, faster internet, does it means more accessible online stores where to buy games. So, well, in usage indie games, I don't know, but the accessibility will be bigger, in my opinion.
What's the bandwidth of 5G?
I'm not sure. It's
I can Google it.
Have to check, but it's a lot.
It was a decent.
Yeah, like hundreds of megabytes per second. Let's see, 5G. But I don't think that the bandwidth is what is the selling point for 5G. It's the latency. The latency is like a milliseconds, and that allows you to actually play real-time online games in the bus, like having Fortnite tournament while sitting in and commuting.
I mean,
So
actually moving like back to cloud gaming, if this takes off, it can support cloud gaming. But it's also like it's accessibility. Like I don't know if you specifically in game, like you can tell, okay, we will use 5G feature. Yeah.
Okay, I think this meetup take a lot longer than expected. Let's go to sleep, and before that, I want to remind you that on the 24th of February we are having Latvian Game Awards. So see you there at the same place at the same time. And if you don't get there, just watch the stream later on demand. If not, then let's see you on the Gamedev Meetup 94 in March. Thanks everybody for participating, and see you. Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.